Good evening. Today is February 1st. It is 6:30. This is the committee meeting of the Northern Lebanon School District Board of Directors. We are meeting as a committee of the whole. I call this meeting to order. We'll begin with the flag salute and moment of silence. Dr. Bucks, would you lead us, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Martin, may I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Bucks,
Here.
England,
Here.
Fowler,
Here.
Kaczynski. Oh, okay. Kaczynski. Here. Murray,
Here.
Klein,
Here.
Marlowe,
Here.
Erdman,
Here.
Nom.
Here.
All members present.
Great, thank you. We'll move to the public comment portion of this committee meeting. All members of the public were invited to submit notice of public comment by 3 o'clock, I believe, this afternoon. And my understanding is there is no public comment. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. We'll move to the proposed items for the consent calendar. We'll just move through each one. If any director would like to discuss any of these, speak up. If you'd like to move it to the discussion calendar for next week, we can do so. Dr. Messinger.
Yeah, number 4, our typical approval of minutes, student activity account and cash disbursements. I do want to note too that there really was not a death in the library that was the forensics class. There are typical number 4 items are on there for you.
Is there any discussion on item 4? No? Move to item 5, budget and finance.
Yeah, 2 items, several items for us. The IDEA agreement with IU13, this is done annually. This is, to describe it, we get funds from the government that come to us, and then we pass them through to the IU for the services they provide. This is the agreement that outlines those details. And you'll see this every year annually as part of what we have to do with them. We had talked about looking into the house over by Jonestown. We did get some information on the house. In order to make that rentable, we had to put in an outlet for a stove, and then we would have to purchase appliances for it to rent it. There's obviously some benefit in this market for selling it. There's some benefit for renting it. And I'm not sure if the board wants to discuss it further. If so, we can move it to next week, and then any questions you might have. I know that one of the schools of thought that we came across, and I don't know if that was just us talking or if we got some professional advice about holding on to it until Jonestown sells, because it might make that property something that they would want to purchase along with it. So that's why we looked into the rental to begin with, but I know that the market is good as well right now. So it's up to you guys if you want to keep it here or move it to discussion and talk about both options. And then I'll just say that I'll go through 5 and you guys can talk about 5.3 is our E-rate services. That is with a Comcast cable. And Kirk, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were able to solidify that so that when the new buildings are ready to be consolidated, that comes offline with Comcast, and we have it for the new building, but we're not paying them for the old buildings when we're ready to discontinue that. And then also our annual independent speech agreement for next year as well. Did I get that right, Kirk? You can nod.
Yes, that is correct. This agreement is only a 1 year with up to 1 additional year extension. And after that, we won't need it once we've sold off the other buildings.
Discussion on items 5. Dr. Bucks, you had something, I believe.
I did have a question, Ms. Martin. If I remember correctly, you consulted with a realtor, and was that property was it assessed, or was that just the realtor's
professional opinion of the property value. And if I remember correctly, he or she suggested that it may make more sense to wait to sell the property. Is that correct?
I did not have a formal assessment to it. We had a comparative market analysis done by a licensed realtor, which is very similar to an assessed value. And yes, she recommended, actually there was two of them that do commercial sales together. And she recommended, well, they did that we hold on to the property as not so much she thought the value of the property would increase, but she thought that it might decrease the value of Jonestown because if a business was trying to buy that, they would want the parking area and they would not want to have to maneuver their business around a house there. So their recommendation was to hold on to it and sell them together. And if whoever is buying Jonestown doesn't want it, then we would sell the house separate. But in this market, she thought it would be worthwhile to rent it out, take the income on that a while, and then keep them both to sell at the same time in case somebody wanted to move in there and needed the parking area, whatever business they had coming and going, that they didn't have to work around a residential house, because it's kind of a unique situation with that right there on the corner and so close.
Thank you.
Director Marlowe?
Yeah, I'd asked if we can kind of move this for discussion, just so we can have a little more time to kind of dig into it. I don't remember the kind of parking situation there. This property, if I remember, is kind of like almost part of the park. It's across the street. Is that right? When that back parking area?
Yes, and that is one of the things that the rental company, I did mention to him that, we wanted to be upfront. We want a tenant who's going to work with the school district and the park, because there are in the spring I think baseball's in the spring, but anyway. Okay, there's some sports there, and they potentially, I'm so sorry, Gary, he's so disappointed right now, but they could potentially be walking across the lawn there. They park, with the parking situation and activities going on. I said, we do want a tenant and we want them to know up front that, there could be people walking across the lawn, going to games and everything like that. So yes, it would be a very unique situation if we sold it and had a residential person there who then owned it, and it could kind of impose on that.
Yeah. Is it deeded separately today?
Yes.
So someone would have to buy both, and it doesn't, maybe they could combine them for parking and that kind of thing, but it is two separate today.
Yes. And that is zoned residential right now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I just a quick look at that rental price. I mean, rental prices are way up right now. That seems low. If I was going to say, I have
I'll take you through
sons
it.
that might be ready. I could push them that way, but yeah, I think I just like a little more time if we can to push it for some more discussion. Yeah, and we can get maybe an overhead picture of the lot and get it to you, and as well as maybe some pictures of the interior for you to see it. And then anything else throughout the week, if you have other thoughts or questions, let us know so that we can have it prepared for you. And I assume we could kind of list it for sale. I mean, we could kind of list it for sale as we're thinking about or renting it. Maybe it's a shorter term rental. I don't know, but I just like a little more time to dig into that one.
Right. I was going to recommend a month-to-month lease. So we have that, but we can absolutely send me any questions. I'll try to get pictures for it. I'll get you an aerial view of the lot and all the zoning information.
Well, and
for you.
just another piece of information. We were actually talking with, I was a week ago, maybe, about, when to start looking at this sale of the schools and advertising that and getting the ball rolling on that too. And we're not too far away from that process beginning. I think we said this summer.
Yeah,
right?
late summer, I was going to look
That
at have them
we'll
starting
have
to list.
start getting the word out about trying to sell those properties. So, okay, thank you.
I have one additional question. When we had the comparative market analysis done, did they pay attention to the interior, like the plumbing and electrical issues? Like, could we rent it out and then have issues down the road?
Are you talking about the house or the buildings?
The house.
The house. So the agents that came through and did the comparative market analysis, yes, they came through and they looked at that and took it all into consideration when they came up with what they would expect the value to be and their recommendation to go through a rental process. It's actually really hard to find a property management company right now, but I did find two of them, and neither of them came out to the property. They kind of looked at it online. I said the condition of it, and we rented it. So no, they did not come out and we didn't do an inspection on any of our systems like that. That what happens is, should there be an issue while they're living there, they call in and they say, this is the problem. The property management sends somebody out to kind of look at it and check it out. And then they come back to us and say, hey, this would be the repair. Do you guys want to do it yourselves? Or would you like to hire a company to do it for you? We could take care of it either way. Obviously, if the heat goes out and it's a Friday night, we will probably have them take care of it. If it's something during the week that would be simple for Mason or his crew to go fix, we would do that. Process through ourselves to save the money if it would be an easy fix. So do we know if everything's going to hold up? No, it doesn't have central air. We were going to leave the window units there, not be responsible should they break. Same thing with the refrigerator. I leave the refrigerator there. We provide it for them, but we don't have it included in the lease, so that if it breaks, we're not responsible for their food.
Makes sense. Thank
Mhm.
you.
Is there any further discussion on item 5? If not, then we will move item 5.2 to discussion for next week. And we'll move on to item 6, buildings and grounds.
Yeah, I think we've talked about the unsuitable soils at length. The change order is there. I just want to be clear that as we go through this process, it doesn't mean that there won't be other things. We have a parking lot yet that has to be done, and there's still a few sections, but the bulk of the problem has been resolved at this point. Now we feel comfortable with that. So that final change order was there.
Any discussion? Questions? Okay, we'll keep item 6 on the consent calendar, and then item 7, extracurricular.
Yeah, we have a volunteer coach that's going to help here at the end of wrestling with some of the playoffs. And then we also have our list of spring coaches. The highlighted ones are the ones that are additions, and both the paid and volunteer coaches are listed there for the spring.
Any questions, discussion?
We're on 7.2 here.
Yeah.
7.1 and 7.2.
Okay, so just on the coaches side, I know we have a new AD, and I've heard some talk about an evaluation process for coaches, and we're oftentimes looking at these, and we may not, know a lot about one coach or the other. So I don't know, Gary, if you can speak to if there is a formal process or there's thoughts of a formal process being in place, not just on wins and losses, but really on, on the whole package. Sports
Yeah.
is sometimes about teaching leadership and other things other than, wins and losses.
There is a process now with the transition in athletic directors. I don't know that, I do know it's not, I don't think it's been consistently applied, nor do I think it's been incredibly helpful in terms of feedback for coaches to really look at their programs and evaluate, areas of strengths and areas of need. That's something that I've had discussions with the incoming athletic director about. Mr. Rizzo and I also had some discussions, and he's had notes and things too that we had an overlap day already with Mr. Kuiper, with Dr. Kuiper. So we look to fine tune that process. I've talked to Dr. Kuiper a lot about the fact that I don't really want him to be the guy. I mean, sometimes it happens because it just has to, but I don't want him to be the guy setting up cones and driving around in the golf cart all the time. I want him to pay attention to what are they doing in practices? What are they doing? How's their relationship with their kids? How do they communicate with their families? What types of leadership activities are they giving to their kids? And, what's the climate like within the program? How are we retaining kids in our programs? And that needs to be a big part of athletics moving forward, just like we're talking about it, the same kinds of things in the music program. How do we get kids involved? How do we retain those kids? So that will be a big, and when we have that evaluation tool done, I'd be glad to share it with the board. But that's something over the next few months that we're going to try to learn about. I've already had some discussions with other athletic directors and put that together so we're ready to implement it.
Thanks.
I have one additional question. I remember looking at the list and the compensation last year and this year and I didn't think until now to try to calculate it, but is the increase the same percentage for everyone on that list? And what is that increase?
Yeah, and I mentioned that in an email about how it's actually in the CBA, and it probably shouldn't be in the CBA because this is a supplemental contract. I think there are things that they were trying to, things that make sense that are in the CBA, but this is one that I don't think probably applies, but it is in there for now. And it is a 2% increase from year to year that the salary goes up, but it doesn't take into account anything for years of experience. And the salary chart that was developed in 2017-18 kind of disappeared for a while. Obviously that was before Mrs. Bruce's time and my time, and she now has a copy of that. We've tried to go back and correct those salaries and make sure they're all where they are supposed to be per the CBA. However, not only should the scale move, but we should also be rewarding coaches that have been here for longer periods of time and, obviously are, doing well on their evaluation tool too. But, and that process it's just not in place at this point. So we're going to hit that one too. So, yeah.
Thanks.
So with that said, then these numbers are set by the CBA.
There was a committee put in place. I don't know the exact details that came up with salaries for each sport back in, I'm pretty sure it was 2017-18. Yep. Okay. Mrs. Bruce, give me a thumbs up. And the CBA calls for a 2% increase annually.
Okay. All right. Is there any more discussion or a need from any director to move this to the discussion calendar for next week?
And keep in mind, right now, you're just approving
Right.
coaches.
Right. No. Hearing none, we'll keep it on the consent. Item 8, curriculum.
Oh, yeah, 8.1, final adoption on this policy is listed and tentative adoption on the other, on 8.2. 8.3, we have a Drexel MOU for student teachers. 8.4, school calendar. I will tell you that while I am very happy with our school calendar and the way it has been the last couple of years, there's a few tweaks to this. And to be honest, those tweaks are intentional. With the new building being opening up of 2023, we wanted to get the school year finished as soon as possible to buy us as much time as we can to be able to concentrate efforts over there in terms of making sure everything is set up and ready to go. So we're actually ending school a few days before some of the other counties. We're not wrapping around to that following week. So there are some tweaks there that we won't have in the future and we haven't had in the past, but we did that in order to buy us really an extra week of time with the move. So those are the items for 8.
Any discussion on 8? And I would just say, if you have any questions about the policy, I am working with the policy team on that. So please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions on those policies that are included. Director Murray, did you have something?
I did. I just had a question about 8.4 in the calendar. Is there still a committee that develops that whole calendar?
Well, it's not developed by the committee. There's per the CBA, it goes to a committee that the union designates. And I think there were 3 people attended the meeting this year. They were all 3 elementary people. They had a few questions, which I tried to address. I think I satisfactorily did that. Some of it was just not understanding like flexible instructional days, you can only have 5, and they wanted to take snow makeup days completely out of the calendar and just use the flexible instruction day. And while I understand that if you have a bad winter, then you have to wrap around at the end of the year, which is also not a great option. So when this calendar is approved, I was going to send all users an email kind of explaining some of their questions that they had so that they understood why those decisions were made. But they weren't major concerns. But per the CBA, it goes to that committee of people that the union designates. We talk about it. I hear any concerns they have, and then they get to make recommendations to the calendar that I put together, and obviously the board gets to approve or disapprove.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we will retain this on the consent calendar. And human relations, item 9.
Yes, we have one substitute for you. We have 3 leave requests that are listed there. We have a resignation of a maintenance person and then 2 retirements that are listed for you. Just 2 this year, and happy for them. Wish them well.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 10, information.
Yes, we have a student teacher from Eastern University. We also have some LVC students that will be placed. And then finally, just an informational item that we'll share with folks as we get opportunities with partners in the community. We try to pass along information. You might remember a few years back, Comcast had some deals on internet for low-income families. Dell has an education purchase program as well. The flyers are attached there. There's some benefits for families that are purchasing computers for kids that are going to college or other items. They even have a consulting type of thing so that, I know when I shop for a computer, I don't know how much RAM and what speed to get and all that good stuff. Unfortunately, I have someone that I go talk to and ask, but not everybody has that. So they provide some services that if families are interested in, they can use those services. So those flyers are attached.
Any questions, discussion on item 10? Is there any new business for the board?
I will just say that we will have an audit report on the special ed audit next week, along with I skipped a month because of the financial audit, not knowing how long that would go. I did not do the goal update, but I will do the goal update as well on Tuesday. And so those 2 things are coming your way Tuesday night.
And please check your email if you haven't already. We're trying to establish a board workshop for this month prior to next month's regular meeting to discuss finances. Just let me know if any of the days that I've recommended work for you, and we'll hold that workshop, discuss a broad array of financial things. Any other new business? Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Committee meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Go beat Elko.